Hello, Flickin' Fanatics. It is Friday by the time you guys are watching this, but we're recording this Thursday night, just a little sneak peek behind the scenes. But the much anticipated Rings of Power, Scott's fallen asleep. It's past his bedtime.
The show was worth staying up.
It was. It's if they're not up by the time you guys see this, they're coming up. Scott filmed his first reactions, really, I think, for the channel, which is super awesome. Can't wait to dive into those. Just finished watching the second episode with my lovely wife. We had a great time doing it, and you will hear more about our experience with that here shortly. But I'm going to look to Scott for a lot of the explanations of what's going on, because for people new to some of this extended Tolkien lore, it was a lot of who's that? What's that? What's going on? But it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. Music was awesome. But we'll talk all about that. If you guys didn't know, this is a full spoiler discussion. So everything's fair game. If you haven't seen the episode, please put this in your watch later list. Go watch the episode. Come back and subscribe to the channel and all that stuff. Scott, nobody cares what I think about Lord of the Rings. We want to.
That's not true. That's not true.
We want to hear your thoughts on the Rings of Power. What surprised you? What met your expectations? I know you had high expectations.
Very.
So let's just get into it, buddy. Start with episode 1. We'll talk about everything that encapsulates the first episode, the casting.
It was everything from the first episode was great. The first thing you got to let's set aside the lore, background, all the Tolkien stuff, and just go to the quality, the landscapes, the imagery, the audio, the soundtrack is beautiful. Cinematography is amazing. This looks like a $300 million movie, but on a TV show, which I know the budget is. This is the most expensive TV show ever produced.
I wanted to see this on the big screen so bad. I'm very jealous of all my friends that got to see it Wednesday at some of the Regal Cinemark theaters. I tried. There was no seats. Everything was sold out.
They sold out here really fast, and I would have loved to have seen that as well. But you know what? For not being able to see that and not having gotten to see it, I am still grateful. And here's what I'll say. Those 2 episodes are rewatchable. I am going to go back and rewatch them. They're that good. To begin with, the fact that we get the opening, the very beginning of the series, opening scene is a monologue of Galadriel talking about her life in Valinor. So we have to remember this is before time in Middle-earth. There was no age. This is before the first age came. This was beyond time. She lived in Valinor with her siblings.
Later, before the sun bloodied the sky or whatever.
Before the first sunset bled out on the sky, yes. Or poured blood on the sky. So originally there was lights from the 2 trees. She's also old enough to remember the lights of the trees before more. They freaking showed Morgoth. They didn't show him, but they talked about him. His name is Melkor. Fëanor calls him Morgoth. That becomes the name that all elves reference him as after Fëanor makes it, or names him that. But they showed him bleeding the light out of the trees in Valinor. Now, luckily, he had captured that light in the Silmarils. Then,
which were also referenced.
Correct, because Morgoth steals the Silmarils after he drains the light from the 2 trees. He then sneaks in and kills Finwë, who is Fëanor's father, kills him and steals the Silmarils, which Fëanor made with his own hands, and the whole thing is ruined. And it's the fact that they reference those things. They reference the war. We see what appears to be Ancalagon the Black fighting in the sky against the giant eagle in the opening, like the visuals of the War of Wrath, the Battle of Sudden Flame, the Battle of Unnumbered Tears, all these wars that happened First Age or before.
I just imagine
just to start, the first 5 minutes were so pumped up awesome.
I wish that I could watch one of these episodes with you, because I just imagine it's like an hour long of you being the Leonardo DiCaprio meme, right?
Yeah.
It's just
yeah. Ooh, I know that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on. Let me... Ooh, right there.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Right here.
Somebody screenshot that.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, being such an avid Tolkien fan, they did justice, and all the people I feel, and I'll be honest, there's still some out there that are poo-pooing this, and I feel like
on Amazon, when we finish watching the episode, Amazon movies and TV shows, they have the star review under the title.
Mm-hmm.
You see the star review for Rings of Power right now is 1 star.
What's amazing, the critics give this an 84%.
Yeah.
Rotten Tomatoes had 136 reviews at 84%. The fact is, this is being blasted by people who don't want to see a strong female protagonist, or
they're open to 0% adaptation.
Correct. And Peter Jackson made differences. As a matter of fact, I would say that Peter Jackson, for what...
Sean, well, I guess we're not going to edit this. We're losing Scott for a second. Give it a moment.
Oh, there we go. I'm back.
And he's back.
Okay. Peter Jackson made, in the first 2 episodes so far, you could easily say that Peter Jackson made more changes in the Fellowship of the Ring than we've had in the 2 episodes so far. Yes, there are some changes. No, Galadriel is never listed as being a warrior. Okay.
I'm good with it.
Whatever. She's doing fine. Could they have picked somebody else? Sure, but what's wrong with them doing this with Galadriel and her having to make a shift in how she leads and eventually becomes one of the most powerful elves in Middle Earth? It's
You're going to tell me
okay.
somebody that's been that prominent for not 100 years, not 1,000 years, but ages, never took up a sword? I don't believe it. I wouldn't believe it.
She is, as a daughter of Fëanor, her and her siblings she is one of the few women with the elves who came to fight Morgoth in the First Age. She
Right.
came with her, and she was part of the kinslaying, so she came with everybody when they came across as in order to try and rescue the Silmarils. And so she is also banished from Valinor. And now we can get to episode 2 in a minute, and I'll cover that. But we jumped in really quickly with that opening dialogue and monologue. It was 13 minutes in, I think, before we even got the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power header. 13 minutes of introduction of...
which I feel like is very akin to Fellowship of the Ring.
Totally. Fellowship of the Rings, you got a long way in before you even saw the Wingnut Films introduction. I was thoroughly pleased with everything they did. The things, and the other thing we have to remember is, and we talked about this in the everything you need to know kind of breakdown we did
in our last episode of Fox Talks.
Yes,
what you missed.
Where the Second Age of Middle Earth has the least information. So this is my single book anthology of Lord of the Rings. Now, right here marks where the appendices are. And in the appendices, there's roughly this many pages, right, that cover the Númenóreans and the Second Age. This is not enough compared to this to do a multi-season series. They had to build some story. Let's calm down. Yes. Did they take a little from the Silmarillion? Yes. Did they take a little bit from Unfinished Tales? Yes. But they don't own the rights to that material. They own the rights to Lord of the Rings and all the stories included within, and they own the rights to the appendices and to The Hobbit. That's what they own the rights to. Let's calm down. They did a good job. So not only is there the least information in this window, but they're trying to do a show covering a mass amount, and people were jumping to conclusions about some of the things that we would see without giving heed to the fact that some of this might be foreshadowing, looking back, future, the timelines being different. The Second Age is rather large. but it was, oh man, I couldn't get away from the quality of the audio. The soundtrack might be one of the best scores I've heard in a while, as far as just the timing, the emotion, the hits were all in the right spots to really amplify the intensity.
Mhm.
Like you got a lot of that, just like, ooh, like
And they're
that bass line kicking
swelling. It
in.
was
Oh
epic. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. The Harfoots were fun,
Yeah, that
and
was another thing I want to talk
they
about.
weren't as cringy as I thought they were going to be from the trailer. The trailer, they kind of did it, and they made it feel a little cringy.
They felt like hippie hobbits.
Totally. And again, these are not hobbits that have put down roots in one area. These are hobbits that are Harfoots that are moving. Right? They camp, and they move the camp, and everything is meant to look like rocks, trees, stumps, and then they pick it all up and move it to the next area. And they're more of hunter gatherer style, right? Instead of well, it would be like, well, Shire folk would be people who would be into agriculture, right? Imagine humans pre-agricultural revolution, where we figured out how to tend a farm and raise crops.
Yeah.
Well, that changes the dynamic. Harfoots were hunter-gatherer, where they moved with the land as the land provided.
We get to meet, is it Nellie?
Nori. Nori is also, by the way, Eleanor. Eleanor being Samwise Gamgee and Rosie Cotton's first child is Eleanor. There was going to be Frodo, except for that they had a girl first, and then Frodo named her Eleanor after the golden flower from Lothlorien. Boom. Know your stuff. And so the fact that they gave her the name Eleanor, and also young maidens in Hobbit tradition are always named after a flower. So we have Poppy. Poppy is a Proudfoot, and then we have Rosie or Nori. Nori is a Brandyfoot.
Yep.
So these young ladies also kind of helping lead, and knowing that Nori is the one who feels like she's supposed to belong to something bigger than what she is. She's part of this tribe in this village and has that desire to feel like she's part of the bigger cosmos.
It's so funny how like it's always like the most important thing finds its way into the hands and lives of hobbits or hobbit adjacent.
Absolutely.
Which I have questions for you coming up.
Oh, that's fine. So we're
skipping over like the was it ice troll? What did they call it in the beginning?
Oh my gosh! So they went to the north. Oh, this is part of what got me jacked up early in the show. They were in Thangorodrim. Let me break this down. Thangorodrim is in the far north. That is the realm of Melkor or Morgoth. He built his castle in the north, where you could not come at him from above him from the north, because it was ice. In the barren waste in the ice, nobody would come down from above him to get at him. So he basically limited and he was backed up to the mountains. So nobody could come at him except for one side. He was vulnerable from the south. So you had to come up to meet him. And she travels all the way into the mountains, into the ice, to the top of the areas to find Thangorodrim, to find the remnants of Sauron and his people within those places. And they find a giant ice troll or cave troll ish. But I even said this, it looked a lot like the way his mouth was, a lot like a Balrog that didn't have the flames and wings, right? Or the whip. But it was intense. And he also was smashing up some elves. Now the great thing is, we also need to know elves are incredibly hardy. Okay, they're immortal, they're strong, they're fast, and they recover incredibly fast from grievous wounds. An elf can recover quickly.
Business.
Yeah, she sliced and diced him. She took care of business, and when she popped the knife into the top of his head, it was like, ooh, he's not getting up from that.
Slice his jaw apart. Is some good stuff.
Yeah, so that was good. And what I really loved about that is they did the reveal of the script for Sauron, his emblem, which is kind of the eye, which was also burned into the chest of her brother. Again, they never mentioned his name. She has multiple brothers. And I don't know if they did that because they don't own the rights to which brother, or they don't want to specifically pin it down.
Finrod, or am I getting people confused?
I was listening for it. They didn't say it. Oh, maybe it was in the subtitles, but or maybe it listed Finrod when he was talking to her.
Yeah,
But
I think
just
that's
watching,
I have subtitles on everything
Oh.
all the time.
She didn't specifically call him by name.
Okay.
But if it's Finrod, it's Finrod. Whatever, it's cool. But again, he dies in the dungeons of Sauron, and that's how he meets his death, while trying to offer aid to Beren and Luthien. Finrod also taught men how to make things. He was a craftsman, also the king of Nargothrond. Anyways, so super incredible character that we have here.
Not just out here naming off Pokemon. I don't know what's going on.
Oh yeah. But I tell you what, that first look of Valinor, absolutely stunning. And then you have after that, you have
It was hard to tell where like the set stopped and the CG began in most of these shots.
Oh, totally. Their rendering was beautiful. We also got to see Lindor, right, with the
Which is
High
is
King.
that the elf capital? Or am I mixing?
Yeah, the High Elf capital. That's
Yeah.
where where Gil-galad is king, right? And then there is not Eriador. I'm blanking on the one where Celebrimbor is at. But where the High King Gil-galad is at, I was a little surprised with how they kind of utilized him. It's like he knows the bad guy's still out there, but he's trying to put it at ease and get them to stop looking for him, because by looking for him, they're going to draw him out, right?
Right.
They're going to give fuel to the fire. So he's got some wisdom there, but at the same time,
Right now, he's kind of doing the Warner Brothers approach, and Sauron's the Ezra Miller. And he's like, if we just don't talk about it,
dear
it'll go
goodness.
away. I'm sorry.
That's a
go on.
No, that's a good that's a good analogy. Yeah, you just ignore it and it won't happen. Or wait for a year and then just wait for the time to be right and then slip the movie out with no publicity. So
as you're saying,
I liked Gil-galad. I did like that they even announced Elrond as Herald Elrond, because he is the herald of Gil-galad, so he is essentially the voice for him. And
a big center of this whole episode is the interaction between Elrond and Galadriel. And I got to tell you, a brief moment that's going to live in my mind for like the next 2 weeks is when they're talking, and I don't remember exactly which one of the lines because I feel like he was kind of constantly getting under her skin. But she says Elrond says one thing to Galadriel, and she has like a massive eye twitch, and I was like, she might kill you. She's fierce.
Yes, and like they're standing there looking at the carven faces of all the elves who've died at the hands in these wars, and she's looking up at that carving of her brother, right? Just reminded of the fact that he died, and she wants to avenge him, and she's been seeking this revenge as well. And he's basically saying, listen, when he tells her that he's looking past her disobedience and giving her credit for what she's done, what she's achieved, it's like, dang. Like Gil-galad basically is saying, I'm really pissed because you're not listening to me and you're not doing what I want. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to reward you and send you back to Valinor so you quit screwing around.
Listen, when I don't know much, but I heard the Undying Lands and I had my Leo moment. I was like, isn't that where Frodo goes, right?
That is correct. He sails out from the Grey Havens to Valinor, which is the Undying Lands. Do you know why Frodo goes there?
To not die. To look at the elves.
Arwen chooses the life of a mortal when she marries Aragorn. And she gives her passage to the Undying Lands to Frodo because of the wounds that he's felt from being the ring bearer. She tells him that if the burden is too much and the healing doesn't come, that he can have her seat on the ship to the Undying Lands and there receive full healing. So beautiful. Frodo earns his passage from Arwen, who gives up her seat so that she could die next to Aragorn. Boom. Boom. Got to read the book. That is one of the best parts of the end of The Lord of the Rings. But
So I think we've
so
covered
really
a lot
good.
of the big things in episode 1. What else really stood out to you?
Well, we got a Ron Deer as he comes and he kind of investigates, and we see
Right.
that people are aware of the fact that he's got this weird relationship with Bronwyn and her son Theo. Even her son Theo's like, "What's that guy doing here?" Like nobody wants to deal with him. And we also see this class kind of battle where elves think that men are beneath them, and men think that elves are just bad people.
Right.
We even see that's in episode 2, so I won't jump too far ahead. But there's this class kind of warfare between them in this from the who is it the Tower Warden, right?
Yeah.
Of he even talks about the fact that
These were
that
followers of Morgoth.
yes, yeah, and he looks down on these people, and Arondir's been there 79 years. He's been watching over this land. He's been in that land before Bronwyn was alive, right?
I don't want to think about that.
By the way, Galadriel was 3,000 years old before Elrond was born. Anyways, but it's just
Hence
part of
the
the
line.
dynamic.
It's like, I have seen things you have not seen what I have seen.
Correct. And what's funny is Gil Galad talks to both of them as though they're a little bit lowly in position. With the intention of Elrond eventually growing into those positions, why he's sent to go work with Celebrimbor.
Mhm.
But Galadriel, he's just like, I just want to get you out of here. Just go away, please. But I do like Gil Galad as a king because he does redeem himself, or doesn't need to redeem himself, but he is an incredible king of the elves for Middle Earth. And so we have that portion where we're looking at this little town. We get to meet Bronwyn, her son. They go investigate. Like when he milks the cow and it gives out the black ink, I
Yeah.
wanted to go throw up a little bit.
Well,
Because then he like squeezes it out of his hand. I'm like,
there's a line of dialogue that wet both the eyes of Lauren and I, and it's when Bronwyn, right? Is that her name? Bronwyn asks what's the elf's name? I'm sorry. I'm just learning. This is
Arondir.
This is all very new to me. I'll get it within the few episodes.
He's new
yeah.
to the Tolkien verse. Both of these
forgive me.
characters are.
I'm not going to pretend like I'm not. I'm going fully transparent here. Anyways, she says, if you have something to say, just say it. And he says, I have in 1,000 ways in every word, or in every way, but with words. And we both looked at each other like,
he's still struggling to tell her.
Right. The dialogue, I constantly turned to Laura and I was like, the dialogue is so poetic through the entirety of this show, which Tolkien's very much was. And I was constantly impressed. Like every other line of dialogue that somebody said, I was like, wow. And we could get into the stuff like the exchanges between Prince Durin and Elrond in episode 2, because that was getting at me too. Almost everything Galadriel says. So yeah, I just want to take a moment and say the dialogue is so good. You're not going to hear a whole lot of crap talking from this group, probably.
No, the fact is they have to cultivate a story.
Right.
And there's more information about these historical events happen than there is here's the background story of how these events happen. So people have got to move past some of that stuff, and that's okay. I do want to say Morfydd Clark as Galadriel, perfect casting. I think she's doing a wonderful job,
fantastic.
Especially because they're trying to present Galadriel a little bit different as in this stage of her life as she was in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. We're seeing her as a more of an elven warrior than an elven queen.
This is like centuries and centuries before
millennia earlier.
So if anyone's like, oh, it's not the same. Yeah, well, you were different 5 years ago.
Yeah. Also, Ishmael Cruz Cordova as Rondir. I really, really like this character a lot. Too. And he's a new character written for the show, and I really like the character.
He's so stoic, and it's so... we've had this talk about with Sandman and with Tom Sturridge playing Morpheus. When you're that stoic of a character, it's so easy to be boring and to like use eye acting and subtleties to act through that stoicness, that still calmness is really some of the most impressive acting that you can do.
And then also Charles Edwards as Celebrimbor. I apologize. In our need things to know, there was a picture. I think we have it here. I'll throw this up real quick, and it's right here. This picture is of Celebrimbor with Elrond, and he's holding the hammer that Fëanor wielded when he created the Silmarils. Really cool. Except for he looks so much like
Elrond.
Elrond
Yeah.
that I thought that was his brother Elros. Elros being the first king of Numenor and the original um, uh, Lord of Men. Basically, he chose to live a life of immortal. He became first king of the Numenorians, and he started the line. And eventually, his great 29 generations later grandson is Aragorn. And it's one of those things where I thought that's who it was going to be when I found out that was actually Celebrimbor. Cool. Weird that they picked a guy who literally looks like the old Elrond, at least in this adaptation.
Yeah.
But I really do like the casting for almost all the characters. The portrayals so far are really great. And I struggled a little bit maybe with the passing into Valinor portion. That strain on her, I think it would have been better if, because she had been banished, that the Valinorian had been like, no, you chose with Fëanor to do this. But Gil-galad was offering it, and so I guess that superseded the Valinor ban, the Valinorian ban, and that was the only thing. And like her not wanting to let go and knowing that there was still evil out there and clinging to that knife, and the fact that she has to defend Middle Earth. It's not that I didn't like it. I thought it was just kind of drug on a little
cross
bit.
paths with different characters and things to happen.
Yes.
At sea.
It seemed like instead of having her float all the way out there, but then also I joked about it like, oh, she's going to swim the English Channel right now and put the however many miles it is. Like she's literally swimming across an ocean from the shores of Valinor back to Middle Earth. When they panned across the sundering seas, it was wider than the continent of Middle Earth. And so it's like she's got a long float.
You've seen Robin Hood Men in Tights, I'm sure, plenty of times, yeah?
Oh, my goodness.
I'm just thinking of when he goes from, was it Africa to England, and they're just showing on the map, and he's like going all around.
And he finally gets to the dots, and he crawls up on the beach and kisses, like French kisses the sand. Great pull by the way, my friend. So yes, it was a little bit of a long swim, but I did like that they came across the rafts. There was a giant sea monster.
It was like we barely saw it, but it was sick. And at first I was like,
looked
wow,
like go ahead.
I was gonna say at first I was like, is she gonna be like the bigger person and find a way to like save these people? And she swam away and they all got wrecked. And I was like, no, that's fine too.
Literally she could see it and she's like, I'm out of here. See ya. She dives or pushes away and just swims off. Whereas then Halbrand like unties and kicks away the other part of the vessel. He's like, see ya. But then he also saves her life. She's trying to save him and gets struck by lightning and blasted into the water. And so he jumps in and saves her. Kind of a beautiful moment. But I believe that's episode 2.
It is. Yeah. Sorry.
So it's okay. So
episode monsters.
I'm trying to think of anything else since episode 1. We got the teaser ended with the visual of the man, meteor man burning into the ground, which the more I lean into it, this has to be Gandalf or Sauron. It has to be one of the Istari.
I kind of thought about that because and Lauren's like, is he a wizard? And I was like, it's gotta be a wizard. But I didn't think they were that old. Like I knew they were centuries old, but I didn't know if they were around like
They are Third Age, but there is a reference to them in one of the Unfinished Tales to being in the Second Age, so it kind of leaves the door open for them.
And then they're from old. The sky, speaking another language. I was like, "What is this?"
Well, they're speaking Valinorian. I mean, he's speaking the only language, the language of the Maiar, essentially, which are that's what Sauron was originally. So incredibly powerful. The question is, which one is he? Who is it? And that's going to be a character that unravels a little bit in the same way that Halbrand will be unraveled a little bit. But that's the cliffhanger at the end of the episode 1 is this guy. And by the way, he burns a hole in the ground that looks like the shape of the burning eye of Sauron. But when Nori climbs down in there at the start of the second episode, it's not even hot. Like, it was weird to touch. Yeah.
And Lauren turned to me, and I thought it was cute. Like, when she's like, "Oh, it's not hot," she looks at me, she's like, you'll find it's quite cool.
Good. That's the Gandalf line from Fellowship of the Rings. You'll find it's quite cool. And then we get again Nori and Poppy going in there. Poppy being like, "This is a terrible idea," and Nori's like, "No, come on, we gotta help." And then she goes up and pokes him, and he screams. And when he screams, he takes the breath in, and it breathes all the fire back inside of him. And then when he falls down, it goes back out. Really cool effects, by the way. These are movie quality effects, Peter Jackson quality effects, but with 20 years newer technology.
Yeah.
So it looks so clean. I couldn't pick on anything. And oh no, end of episode 1. I geeked out the most in this moment. When the meteor's flying through the sky, it shows the woods and the trees are all moving in the woods, walking, and it was Ents. And I was like, "Are you serious?" Like, I got all jacked up. Yeah, I was. I nerded out then because the Ents are some of the coolest people in all of it. But it was. I feel like it was really well done the way they handled that. They're trying to introduce a very complex character, but also showing that, hey, when Gandalf or Sauron or Sauron or Radagast or any of them came to Middle Earth, they had to start from scratch, figuring all this stuff out, right? And that's what they're going to have to do. And so I think it's a matter of they need to learn the lore, they need to learn the language, they got to learn it all. They got thousands of years, but it starts somewhere. I did like that we also got a Arondir dipping into the cave. Like, they go to this part of town that's been burned up. Something's bad's happened. They dip inside, and there's a hole in the ground.
What's in there, and that's why I must go.
Oh, dude! When the thing in the cave starts coming after him, and he's crawling through, trying to pull himself through, and the rats are running over him, past him, I'm like, okay, one, please say those are fake rats, because if not, that Ishmael Cruz Cordova has so much respect from me for not like pooping his pants, because that would have freaked me out so bad.
The whole time, Lauren's just like, nope.
One, cave diving is one of the scariest things you can do. If you get to a tight spot and you have to squeeze through.
He went from like underground small tunnels, like, this is the worst. But then he went into smaller tunnels, like, nope, this is the worst, with the rats crawling over him. But then he went from small tunnel to underwater, under the ground. I was like, yeah, it's just every second is worse. And
then he gets out of that into a little bubble where he's sitting against the wall with his knife out. And because the trailer, the thing grabs him from behind. So you're just waiting for the jump scare, like, dear goodness, so intense. And then they yank him in.
That's second episode.
That's second episode.
So I think we can probably roll into the second episode.
Yeah, second episode. One of the best parts of second episode is that Elrond has to go encounter the dwarves, right?
Yeah,
and he's
Khazad-dûm.
Exactly, the Mines of Moria, and we get to see it in its glory, not in the broken, busted down version that we get in Lord of the Rings, but in its glory and heyday. Amazing.
I thought I was gonna be really clever if I was right, but when the dwarf denies him passage into Khazad-dûm, and you're waiting to see what he's gonna say, I thought he was gonna say Milan, I believe, which is like
Melon.
it was speak friend and enter, and I was like, oh, that would've been cool. No, he had something else going on.
But remember, those are the new doors. Yeah. Celebrimbor builds those new doors later, and they're lined with moonlight and what is the silver steel? Mithril and everything in the door. So,
which I think we get a sneak peek of them looking at some mithril.
Yes, that is the special. They think it's weird that the elves would show up for help at the same time that they find mithril. Which also, by the way, mithril is the metal that Sauron covets the most, which is why he goes after the Mines of Moria. But also
saves Frodo's life.
Can I say one of the best emotional things in this is and it caught me off guard, and it made me like, dang, so good, was when Elrond goes, he calls for this battle, he gets pulled in, he has to do this trial of endurance. Durin is pissed at him for some reason. We don't know why. And they're going back and forth, and Elrond essentially tries to throw the competition by intentionally overswinging, breaking his axe or his hammer. And then it comes back, and he just yields. He turns it over, and Durin tells him to leave. And he goes, "Will you escort me out?" And as they're walking out, he tries to talk to him. And
this is what I was talking about earlier.
This is
like,
the emotional moment. When Durin yells at him about the fact that 20 years have gone and he's missed his wedding and the birth of 2 children. And in the life of an elf, 20 years is nothing, but I've lived a lifetime in that window. And that cuts. Elves do not understand time in the same way that dwarves and men and hobbits understand time. They live in a different, being immortal, time means nothing to them. And so they don't measure things the same way. And so he really is quite the politician, Elrond is, and he's also wise. He knows how to play people, but he offers the apology. And when he reaches over to touch his shoulder, and he just says, "Congratulations on the children, the wedding, all of it. And I would love the opportunity to apologize to every one of them for not being there." Wonderfully handled. It's so wise, and he plays it exactly right. And then he's like, you can come in, you can apologize, you're not staying for dinner. And then she comes in, she's like, obviously, no worries, you're welcome.
Elrond, and Elrond knows her, and he definitely knew to some degree what he was doing. He's like, if I can get in the door, I've got it. It's in the bag.
Hey, are you okay? Why don't you go lay down? Jeez Louise. Yes, Disa knew exactly, and she was trying to mend the relationships. Also, the fact that he has the sapling cut tree.
Not the best picture.
No, I wish I had gotten a better quality one. Yeah, I really did like her character. But I think Mommy's in either the living room or our room. I'll be right back. I gotta help her out.
Good. We'll bring Scott back momentarily, but daddy duties late at night. That happens the best of us. I just got a new kitten, so I'll be on some daddy duty too. Anyways, talking about Khazad-dûm and Disa and Elrond, and there was so much good conversation, and you could see that in a pretty sincere way, Elrond was kind of using Disa to soften the heart of stone that Durin has. And dwarves are known for being extremely stubborn, and he was. And it took him a while to give in, and Elrond left. He's like, well, I'm banished. And so he got up, and he's like, nope, sit down, fine. I love the guy playing Prince Durin.
Yeah, hold on a second. That's I have that written down. Owain Arthur and Sophia Nomvit or Vetti is Disa. Such a great combination. The way they interacted back and forth was definitely husband and wife. And let me tell you, when these kids came in with the giant stone heads on and we're headbutting each other, I was like,
cackling. Man, it was so funny. That is such a stay out of my heads.
It's such a parent moment. Like, you've got to be kidding me. Of all the toys to be breaking out during dinner, but then also the fact that he nurtured the sapling of the tree of linen underground. And it says, well, it grows anywhere with love. And in a house like this, how could there not be there? Oh, get you right in the heart.
The dialogue was so poetic throughout both of these episodes.
Well, the writers of this show are incredible. Like, they're all the writing crew on this show are all very experienced and proven on different properties being highly successful. And so the dialogue back and forth is well thought out, very intentional, and it gets the effect they're going for, and that's exactly what you want. Yeah, this guy was awesome. Owain Arthur. Oop, I always do that.
Sorry, I got it. I'm here for you.
And so I was really pleased with the way that panned out. Did we get any other new characters? Oh no, we got the giant thing breaking out of the floor. So
Yeah, the
we
freaking not Urukai, but still orc on steroids.
yes, and Bronwyn has to kill it.
Like, man, there's so many badass women in the show already.
The fact that her son, one, he already looked at that Morgul blade and the emblem of Sauron, his signature, like burned into him, and so he's suffering from some weird stuff right now. And then he's hearing this thing in the floorboards scratching, and he's thinking it's the mice, so he starts pounding the floor, and when he pounds it, an eye flashes by. Boy, perfect jump scare. And then the mom comes, and she immediately hides. She knows something's wrong, and up comes the thing, and it's a classic jump scare. You know when it's coming, you know where it's at, but they still get you. Anybody, like a non-movie fan, might be shocked by it.
Well,
but every
it's
movie
the same as the cave
person,
troll in Fellowship of the Ring. You know what was happening when he's going back and forth, like around the pillar, but it's still like, ah.
oh yeah, it comes in the direction you're not looking for. But they did it so well, and plus his look with having that skull, the bison skull or whatever it was over his head,
Yeah.
really scary looking. And then the fact that Theo throws the noose around him and then jumps off the rafter to try and hang him, and then he's stuck hanging right in front of the thing as it's trying to club him. Super intense, really well done. And then we get Bronwyn stabbing him with a sword, impaling him, and he just keeps fighting through it, but he gets stuck on it. And then she finally lops his head off and takes it, and he's like, here's your evidence. Anybody who wants to survive is coming with me tomorrow.
And they listened all of a sudden.
And it literally was the Arnold Schwarzenegger, come with me if you want to live.
Yeah.
Which is terrible, by the way.
Apparently Arnold's Russian now.
Yeah. It's all the same.
Yeah, so that was what else happened in this episode? We get a lot more of the nurturing, trying to unravel the mystery of the man from space, the meteor man.
They did spend a lot of time with Nori and Poppy trying to figure out how to communicate with him. And he's drawing stuff on the ground, trying to do stuff. At the very end, he uses the lightning bugs to illuminate the sky in order to show that. We also got Halbrand and Galadriel and their little thing. They get washed up at the very end. I believe where they wash up is the island of Numenor.
Yeah, I think so too, because there's that the teaser for the next episodes is all very Numenor heavy, it seems.
Okay, that would make sense because I believe Numenor is the next grouping we really haven't heard from, haven't seen. They've got to introduce these characters. That, or at the end, I said it's possible it's Círdan, who's the shipwright, who would have been the one to actually sail the ship from Middle Earth to the Havens. But you know what's cool about all this is at some point, Celebrimbor makes these rings, right? And then he gives them to Gil-galad. And then Gil-galad has to determine who to give them out to. And he ends up with Galadriel, Elrond, and Círdan as the three people he gives it to. And I cannot wait to see how they work these relationships in this character arc from where we are now all the way around.
Well, yeah, we got to get into it because there's I thought there was 10 episodes. I guess there's 9 episodes and we're 2 in, 7 left. Nothing about rings. Yeah.
Nope. Well, no, but we began the footwork with Celebrimbor has to build this forge, and he needs the dwarves to help make it so he can make it as hot as possible to help forge the rings. But we also know that he learns how to do that from Sauron. Sauron teaches them how to do it. He never touches them, but he does teach the craft to them. And so at least that's Tolkien lore. So, and we know we've made some fine adjustments, but we also don't know who Sauron is in any of this. Still haven't seen him. Boy, let me tell you what, though. They teased him at the very beginning. We see him in his giant form standing in front of his people. Man, he looks good. Looks good. It's so nice to see him again. in like the worst way possible.
It's like, where you been, buddy? Where you been?
Yeah, I'm grateful that they brought so much, but again, 2 episodes in, and I couldn't be more pleased with how it's gone so far.
Can I
And
just have to
also,
say, for the female gaze, my wife is really loving the yearning. She says there's not enough yearning in genre film right now, and just the sexual tension and stuff between the characters. Star Wars could never.
dude, Star Wars only pulled that off between a brother and sister somehow. And that's gross. Anyways, that dynamic right there, that forbidden
Sorry,
love.
Game of Thrones. Star Wars did it first.
Yes. Wait a minute. What is happening right now? The relationship between Arondir and Bronwyn is very beautiful so far. And I really hope it gets the opportunity to go a little bit further. But we also, they even referenced correctly in here that there's only been 2 unions of men and elf, and that would be Baron and Luthien and Tuor and Idril. And Tuor and Idril are the parents of. Come on, Jesse.
The Elrond.
Arendelle. And Arendelle is Elrond's father. Perfect. All right, you were close. So Elrond's grandparents were a union of men and elf, and Arendelle. They also showed they showed the ship in Lindor with the star above it, with that light.
Yeah.
And I couldn't. It looked as though they were talking about Valinor right there. That could have been one of the ships going to the Undying Lands with that. But it also, in my mind, I thought, well, are they referencing Arendelle with the Silmaril that he wears on his forehead, that he sails through the skies with? Again, so much beautiful, beautiful, beautiful stuff happened in these episodes that I just can't believe we're getting this stuff with any of the lore of Tolkien that we're getting.
I would love to be known as the positive faces for Rings of Power. Like, we'll be honest, if something doesn't work, we're going to tell you that it didn't work for us. But I think the show is just so visually impressive with sound design, the costumes, the sets. It's just like across the board, one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, TV or movie. Beautiful. And so I'm going to allow myself, at least personally, to geek out and fanboy over it. So if you enjoy that, keep coming back. Also, like and subscribe to the channel. But Scott, as you were.
I just want to say, like, if the people who are poo-pooing the show right now, a lot of them are diehard Tolkien fans, which, by the way, I am, and I really love this show because I'm also a realist, and I understand that to create a story, you have to alter some things. That what Tolkien wrote and what Christopher Tolkien put together as the appendices and all the background information, Tolkien didn't include in the original stories. So all this extra stuff, people are really mad about it, but it wasn't finished works by Tolkien. It was not intended to be made into a show or into more movies. This is background history, and it's okay. They're going to take liberties. Be all right with it. Now, I will be one of the first ones to come out and say that I've got issue if there's issues where I feel like they abused the lore too far. I've already spoke about the fact that they kind of played a weird line with Finrod as far as how he died, right? But they left it vague enough. They didn't specifically say he died in a battle. That's the kind of thing. Yes, we will be picky to an extent, but not to the point of saying that this is not a good show. If you don't know anything about Tolkien, I don't know how you can not like the show.
What's weird to me is you have like 2 ends of the spectrum. You have the dark side of your brethren, the diehard Tolkiens that are just doing their thing and crapping all over this because it's not, I don't know, whatever their fantasy is. And then you have the other side of people that know next to nothing, that, and some of them I've talked to that are really bored. And I'm like, so weird. Like, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings cinematic fan. Love it. I don't know a lot of lore outside of that. And so watching this show, I'm like, this is everything I could want already from this.
The pacing was even good. It didn't feel like over an hour. It felt pretty good.
when 2 ended, Lauren was like, "It's not fair that it's just 2." I was like, "I'm glad it's more than 1."
Yeah, and now we got to wait weekly for the rest of it. Could you
Yeah.
imagine if we only had episode 1? There's still so many questions.
Oh, yeah.
And to think if they're all an hour, that means we're gonna have 9 hours of
Yeah.
material to work through. Calm
9
down.
closing. It'll be closing on 10 because like this was like an hour 6 and an hour 7.
Yeah, but you got 5 minutes of credit at the end, plus 2 minutes of recap at the very beginning. But still, 59 minutes of new visual. That's pretty impressive. And by the way, it was really, really good. So,
just a reminder to anyone that wants to know a whole lot about lore going into this, maybe you went in blind, you're like, I'm confused. Check out this video. Pre-show thoughts, Fox Tolkien Talks. That just came out, I believe, last week. And it was a lot of fun. And Scott broke down a whole bunch of characters or what's what I'm looking for? Predictions and things from the Silmarillion and other extended Tolkien lore. So check that video out.
There's a lot to digest with Tolkien. The key for me and for a lot of it is just give it a chance. Give it a chance. And I again don't know how people can have watched those 2 episodes and if they're being open-minded said this is a bad show. I just don't see it. I don't see it at all. And yet some of these people are the same people who are like, oh, I love Game of Thrones and some of this stuff. It's like, this is such richer story. And oh my gosh, the music, the visuals, all of for this show, those first 2 episodes are better.
This household enjoys House of the Dragon. We liked 80% or more of Game of Thrones, but this is it. This is the fantasy. Like,
yeah,
this is not a Game of Thrones quote on my wrist.
If you were to look at all of the different fantasy books and stories out there, there is not one that has been created with the same level of lore and quality of storytelling that Tolkien created. And even with that, you have to take some liberties. And the people who are upset because they're changing some of the lore, yet they love the Peter Jackson ones. Like, the Peter Jackson ones did a lot of things that aren't in the story.
Yeah. And like when I went into Dune, I was going in with a fine-tooth comb and I was like, yeah, you made some changes. You streamlined a few things. It's incredible.
Yeah. Dune's a fantastic movie, minus what one of our co-hosts feels about it. That's fine. Yeah. It's not everyone's flavor, and that's okay. But still, giving this show a chance, the first 2 episodes for me were thumbs up on both of them. I am thoroughly pleased with both, and I believe we're heading in a very strong direction. If the next 6 or 7 episodes are the exact same as this, quality-wise, there's no way this isn't going to be my favorite thing ever produced.
And speaking of those 7, the next 7 weeks, in place of news and views where you can normally find Scott and I talk about movie news throughout the week, we're going to talk about the most exciting things every week. So Saturday mornings should be 9 a.m. You will get our Rings of Power episodic breakdowns and kind of first reactions coming out of it. So stay tuned for that. Scott, is there anything else you want to say about episode 2 before we wrap it up here?
I'm just curious for you, if you had to pick one character as your favorite character so far, who would you say?
I gotta say, simping really hard for Galadriel. And I don't want to say that I was expecting to already before the show started, but I was like, man, your line delivery, fantastic. The fierceness, and some of it's a script writing. They've given her amazing things to work with, but I got this evil maniacal laugh when her eye was twitching, and I was like, she's scary. And the thing I always loved about Galadriel in the original trilogy is it's Cate Blanchett. She's beautiful. She's kind of warm. And then she turns into a frightening, glowing horror monster. And I'm like, I love Galadriel. She's so cool. But I'm really enjoying most of the characters. I love the Harfoots. I love Nori. She's adorable. She's perfect casting for somebody that is Hobbit-like because I don't know how old she is. because she looks like she could be 14 or mid-20s.
Okay. Can I just say Lenny Henry as Sadok Burrows as he's the elder,
Oh, he's really
and it's
cool.
like reading the portents and the stars, and the two ladies that are with him who are like the town gossips. So awesome. But also Dylan Smith as Largo Brandyfoot, Nori's father, when he twists his ankle and he's like, I just twisted a little bit, and literally like he busted his leg, and he's like, it's okay, it's not bad at all. Typical
like,
guy thing, like, no, it's perfectly fine. They like barely tap it.
Okay.
But I would say oh man, it's so hard to peg down just one character. But I'm gonna say I'm maybe not necessarily my favorite of the whole thing so far, but I will say that I'm most surprised by with the initial casting, I wasn't sure I was going to like Elrond as much as I do. And I can totally see him being kind of that wise lore master, which he is in Middle Earth.
As far as elves go, he's almost kind of in like as we know Elrond. It's like Elrond's adolescence in elf years.
Totally, yeah. Well, and I love that early on it looked like he was writing poetry, and then it turns out he was writing the speech for Gil-galad. And matter of fact, when Gil-galad came to that pinnacle moment that Elrond was crossing out and rewording, he actually looks at Elrond when he gives that line. So nicely done. And I think that's and then also his interaction in episode 2 with Durin the Fourth, and how he builds that, and he's here. I'm here to see my friend. I'm here for, and he knows a lot about their people and how to engage with them. And I think it speaks to how wise he really is and how much he knows about the entirety of everything. And right now he's the herald of Gil-galad, right? He owns no land. He doesn't do anything, despite the fact that his father literally wears a Silmaril flying through the sky. Somehow he's not a lord in any way. He has no prominence. He's not a lord of land. And yet down the road, he will become the head of Imladris or Rivendell, and he will become the wisest of all lore masters in Middle Earth. And by the way, he also marries Galadriel's daughter.
Oh,
straight up. So there's a good relationship. She marries Celeborn, has a daughter, and Celebrain, and Elrond marries her. That is who helps. Elrond then has Elrohir, Eladan, and then Arwen are his 3 children.
Welcome to part 2 of our breakdown.
Yes, I knew I was going to sneak more information in, but
I was thoroughly bring it on.
Yes, yeah, I was thoroughly impressed with. I'm very pleased with how they've handled Elrond, because, by the way, I was also nervous because Hugo Weaving is possibly my favorite actor all time, like across the board. I'd be hard pressed to find somebody who I think is a better, more well-rounded actor.
Ask our co-host Sean Wingblade, he would just say hug. You remember that story?
No.
He's doing a trivia match, and
he couldn't get Hugo.
The answer was Hugo Weaving, and he got to hug, and his brain stopped working. So whenever I reference Hugo Weaving to Sean, I'm just like, you mean hug?
Yes, hug. But I being such a huge Hugo Weaving fan, and how he portrayed the role of Elrond, it made me nervous for anyone else to take the role. But I think this young man, and I already said his name. Why am I blanking on it? I have it done here. Robert Arameo is Elrond, and he's got to help. Like, I love that he's the herald of Gil-galad. He's helping Celebrimbor. He has to get in really well with. He literally has a network of people he knows all over that is unparalleled. He is certainly a politician. So I like how they're treating that character. I'd say right now that's where I'm kind of leaning the most.
So we like us some elves, essentially, is what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. Huge thank you for everyone that joined us for this video. Make sure to check out all the other videos we have coming up this week. We also have She-Hulk episode 3 reaction with Allison Salomoni. And man, that was a really fun episode. Along with our review of the show, which will be slapped into our Friday night Speak Easy show. So tune in for that. And then this weekend, I'm quite busy, but we do have some D23 coverage coming up the following weekend. That's going to be huge, covering Star Wars, Marvel, all that good stuff. Hopefully Scott plans and popping in saying hi. Maybe we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think Disney's covering a whole bunch of Lord of the Rings stuff, so I'm gonna
Probably
tune in for that. Yeah.
As if you haven't been able to tell, Mr. Scott Fox is our Lord of the Rings Tolkien aficionado, and he has.
I've been waiting 5 years for this to come together, right? For
I've
the show
done my
to hit.
waiting. 12 years of it in Azkaban. Yeah.
Gary Oldman. Wow, nicely pulled.
I tried, dude. I know it's late, but I still got the brain's still working. So we got reactions coming up, I believe. Today, once this video comes out, we will have the episode 1 reaction from Scott, and then Saturday episode 2 reaction will drop. So it's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys haven't already, smash that like button. Tell your friends about us. I always think of Batman. Whenever I say tell your friends about us, tell your friends about me. I'm Batman. Comment down below. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And just keep watching our stuff. We enjoyed having you. It's been a really awesome time. And until the next video, keep it real. Catch you on the flip side.